Andre Soleil. Thank you.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm excited to present to you here 3 of our biggest deal flow, most important verticals, so that we can hear from each of the managing partners in that space. What did they see this year? What's happening in their industry? What are they expecting coming up, and how are their clients dealing with it? And really, what's making the difference for the winning suppliers in each of their deals? So starting with Nishant Verma, looking after healthcare. In the healthcare space, what are you seeing happening? You know, we've heard about these risks and these threats. How are your clients dealing with it?
Yeah, so risk is an interesting word with healthcare, because that has, for the longest time, defined the deals, or risks have kind of prevented most of the deals happening. But the world is in an interesting space right now where, on one hand, there are all of those operational risks, data risks, cybersecurity risks, but then there are financial risks on top of that as well. And there are opportunities that the clients are seeing with AI, with the GCC models, with deepening relationships with service providers. There is this huge realization, even with the healthcare provider side of the story, where they were typically lagging behind other verticals, that they cannot just be subservient to the negative risks on the operational side and ignore the financial ones. So there is a huge push to leapfrog a few generations of maturity when it comes to engaging with partners, and really taking advantage of AI, taking advantage of automation and what the partner capabilities can bring to them from a tech and process perspective. Now, what that also means is that there will be risks on the execution side. There will be unknowns on the deal structuring side, because the client's data is not perfect, they've never gone through this cycle before, and they are kind of discovering how to go from having almost no provider interactions to being deeply ingrained in a partnership. What that requires, and I see the partners who are being successful are the ones who, one, bring executive leadership to the table, and who are willing to take those risks with the clients, not kind of insulate themselves from the risks contractually. And by that, what I mean is, if there is an opportunity to take out 40% cost or 50% cost through AI, we don't know what all AI initiatives will be relevant over the 3 to 5 year period. But we know that there is enough opportunity out there to be able to carve that cost out. Now, do we want to do everything through change orders? That's where the client starts to take a back step. But if we are able to put that into the deal construct, the commitment to bring that saving, the commitment to make those investments, and de-risk the client from the uncertainties of what will be possible, what won't be possible, uncertainties around performance guarantees, and so on, the deals start to happen. And we are seeing creative bundling of service areas which were not very mature to even outsourcing, because the clients want to make sure that they are making as deep an impact on their organizations as possible. So this is almost a 180 degree when it comes to provider clients. Life sciences, major push to go from their Gen 3 deals to AI-led deals. And we'll probably talk about some examples going forward.
Okay, good. That's where you see that deepening, right? And Henry, maybe, I know you've got a big deal on the go at the moment that you probably don't want to identify too clearly, but you were thinking about how you are dealing with this response to risk and this response to change in there. Can you share a little bit about what you've got?
I've been working with a few clients over the last year who are very mature with managed services, right? They started out not so mature, but over the last 10, 15 years, they're now very mature and ready to move things to the next step. And all of those bullet points that Kevin talked about are points that we gave him, right? All of those elements of what we're seeing and where deals are going. And clients are now willing to fundamentally change up how they're constructed. They're moving away from the focus on labor arbitrage. They're really focused on building the solutions with service providers who are the incumbents. These are going to be real deals with the clients I'm working with. and looking at their solutions from the ground up, how they build AI and data in a vertical business-focused solution, top to bottom, and how they string that all together, and really bring in the capabilities to de-risk the operations and how the commercial models will change and fit in the investments that providers will bring in, and also gain the benefits on the other end as they start achieving the outcomes they're seeking. But these new solutions are very vertical focused and looking at those risks along the way, right? Taking out the financial risks, the operational risks of moving to AI, the people risks of bringing in new capabilities at a higher level, higher value resources. So again, they're just shaking up how they've been looking at these deals over the last 10 years.
Thank you for that. And then if we can apply kind of the similar ideas, Robert, in the BFSI space, when we were talking similarly about commercial constructs and the new deals coming out, you were talking about seeing very strong commitments from vendors. You were thinking about the metrics, right? And how do we measure that?
Yeah, I mean, as the market is shifting and the clients are actually, it's shifted a little bit where the clients are actually ahead of the vendors now in a lot of cases, and they're thinking, they're driving it. And candidly, the service providers need to catch up in a lot of areas. So when a service provider comes in and says, oh, we can gain 30% productivity using AI, be prepared to say, explain why, explain how, and what those commitments are. Because they're not really willing to take it at face value right now because it creates a problem downstream on their business case and their commercial model. So when they bring that forward, be ready to be very clear and with definitions, with how you're going to achieve it, and the level of commitment, and what happens if that commitment's not achieved. It's causing some angst, and it causes an impact on credibility too as well. So as you're looking at bringing in more capabilities, you're bringing AI to improve in a lot of those areas. In some of the lower level services, if you will, whether it's identifying speed to market on product, increased level of efficiencies, cost reduction, or de-risking to a certain extent, whether it's underwriting or AML in the BFSI sector, be very tight with those definitions. They're not taking it at face value anymore.
Now, this is going to be an all play. As you guys think about sort of what the clients are looking for from the deals, right, in terms of transparency in a way, and new commercial models, and sort of the risk allocation, how's that shifting who you're thinking of inviting or how you're putting together the front ends of these deals?
So I think vertical specialization is the key thing clients are focused on, because they're really looking at how they string together complete value streams end to end within their business units. And it's all tied together. They're not looking at horizontal cross-functional services anymore, so that vertical specialization has to be at every step along the way within that business. So I think they're hyper-focused on, we really need a provider who can bring every level of skill and capability within our business and understand that.
Can you give an example of that vertical specialization? Is it the industry, or is it a function, or is it, like, what do you mean?
It's general process, right? Engineering, for example. I work in utilities, so it's really about how the grid and the complexity, how that string together the technology that supports the grid, how the data is used. You really need specialization in order to bring the value out that you're seeking. So.
And is that because they're really looking for those business outcomes that really you can only get if you have a whole stack?
You can only get that through direct specialization and understanding of the full end-to-end business process. So.
Yeah, I was going to say that in probably different words, but we are seeing a lot of consolidation of scope happening for the same reason. Is because the client is looking for the full stack to be delivered as one service. And that's the only way, or the primary way you can really extract all the value out of AI, new technologies, and technology-first delivery model. So we are seeing some of the fragmentation in client accounts go down, the deal sizes increase, the deal terms increase, and more encouragingly, when they are coming up for renewals, we are seeing an increased propensity to really work with the incumbent to create a better solution, to create a deeper partnership.
Yeah, and I think on that same note, I think that one of the things that we're seeing too as well is moving up the stack on skill sets and capabilities, not only the capabilities, but also in that vertical specialization up and down the value chain. So that's where, and Kevin mentioned that, that's where you increase the capabilities, you increase your skill sets with the client. It'll actually help you broaden, expand throughout the organization, bringing more value to the client across that entire value chain. I mean, it's going to be different in my industry between L&A, between P&C, and between banking and financial services. So that bringing that skill to the table and not just being a order taker, bringing that advanced level of thinking too into those capability centers.
And Robert, if I could push you for one more step on that one. Earlier when we were talking, you had the sense that you weren't seeing the evolution out of the providers that you would like beyond order takers and so forth. Can you bring that to life for us?
Yeah, I mean, on a couple of the transactions that I've got in flight right now, it still feels like you're trying to take some of the service providers are still trying to look at a traditional, fee for services, outsourcing, order taker almost to a certain extent on an IT stack and on the process stack too as well, across the business process areas. You need to listen to the client. We try to give as much advice as we can. It's not always well taken, but listen. And because when we're saying you need to adopt and you need to evolve faster to the client's thinking, what they're looking for, not just I need 12 people doing this, 30 people, 5,000 people doing this across the industry. You need to be looking at that, hearing the client, listening to the client, adopting to the new world that actually is changing, because it's changing fast. I've been in the industry consulting side since '98, and this is probably the fastest pace of change over the last 2 to 3 years that I've seen.
Yeah.
I want to add to that. I
Please.
think some folks here have listened to us because I'm working with a client now who they know the power of incumbency that they have. Mm-hmm. And they're actually working together with the client on their renewal process. They started early, mm-hmm. They came together, they're cooperating. So the both of them are going to benefit from the planning with the client on looking forward in the renewal mm-hmm. process. Yeah. To me, that was pretty unique. They're really coming together, working together, right? They're competitors, right. But they're incumbents, and they depend on each other to serve the client. Right. So
mm-hmm. That sounds like a real winning strategy.
So good work, guys.
But on that,
we would help.
on that same note, I'd say be really careful about getting complacent about being an incumbent. That is the other thing that happens to you sometimes, because sometimes being an incumbent is an advantage, sometimes it's not. So really, read the tea leaves, take the insight. And we try to help where we can, but we can't always control it.
All right, Nishan, I want to come back to what you teased earlier about from an AI perspective, what you're seeing in your deals, concrete commitments of improvement, productivity, outcomes. What have you got?
Yeah, and we are seeing this both with clients who are closer to maybe Gen 1 and also clients which are Gen 3 plus. Of course, they have different expectations from their deals, but the one common theme out there is that they are not looking to have an open-ended expectation of what they'll get in 3 to 5 years. Now, they know that some of the paths to get there might be open-ended to some degree right now, but they want to see those ideas on the table and they want to vet those ideas. They absolutely want to contract for those improvements, be it business outcomes, be it cost savings, be it tech enhancements. And this is where, sometimes while the discussions start on a very positive partnership-oriented model with the top executives of the partner firms, when it comes down to actually deal making and deal construction, the personality starts to flip because there is risk coverage going on both the sides. And I've seen a different dynamic there kind of make a lot of deals which may not have happened. And also some deals that could have happened kind of have gone south because at the last moment, the service provider thought, hey, I need to cover my risk. Let me add some more financial coverage to it. Maybe my lawyers will give me some more legal coverage on things. And suddenly the client starts to see, hey, what started off with a partnership discussion is suddenly becoming transactional again, and I don't probably want to go there.
Right. And were the providers able to overcome that, or was that a killer in that example?
Some were not. So the example that I was thinking of, the provider that did that better and faster,
Yeah.
they kind of won, and they were incumbents.
Okay.
I won't name names, but
And maybe that helped them see the risk a little more clearly, or at least assure their deal prevention teams that it was tolerable.
maybe. I think what they did well was they did not get mired in the current state of that previous relationship that they were in. We had spoken to them about treating this deal as a non-incumbent, and they really took it to heart. They brought out their best solutioning teams, they brought out their executive leadership, and they took it on as a fresh scope.
Awesome.
And that really made the difference.
Yeah, that's huge. That's something we could all think about, right? Especially on these incumbent deals. If I can pop out for a sec to GCCs, Robert. From that, that's been a big pendulum swing we've been talking about now, seeing sort of the rise of GCCs coming through. I think you've got an example in BFSI where you've seen that work well for.
Yeah, I think work well and still in flight. I think where it's sitting on the GCC side of the house, it's to bring in additional, they may be starting off sometimes with IT and then branching into some of the broader process areas, but the intent is always to grow that, to grow the capabilities, and focus primarily on bringing new services and new capabilities in is what's happening there. In a combination of it could be a BOT or it could be a greenfield model, either one. But they're basically going into, when it's successful, it goes into a geographically diversified model. So it's not putting everything in one location, and it's using a mix of not only the service provider's capabilities, growing those into a higher level of capabilities too as well, to offset a lot of the client capabilities to bring those additional skill sets to play too as well. And they're not starting out small. It's one thing that's happening now. Especially on the BOT side, they look to be starting out at a very aggressive rate, if you will, because they have that level of trust in the model right now and that need with what's happening at least.
And really in your industry, nothing happens small ever, right?
Yeah. Right now in the BFSI sector, there is nothing going on small. It is pretty active, keeping us busy.
Yeah, it's all go big or go home, right?
The GCC model, they're really looking for those higher level capabilities.
Yep.
So it's kind of a trend. It's also happening on the managed services side, right?
Right.
They may not be moving to GCC, but my clients are really focused on how you're all going to bring that new level of capability and really, again, vertical focused in a strong way. So.
And look, so then if we tie in for that, can you expand on that and talk about how, obviously we're seeing so many sole source deals, right? So in a sole source deal and a renewal, how do you bring that capability? How do you bring that expanded?
So we help
to the
the
table?
client define what it is they need. And you were talking about the AI roadmap, and what we're doing is we're trying to set out what are the specific business objectives we want to achieve through AI, and what elements of the business, front office, back office, operations. So we're defining the what, defining the data that's going to be required to support that, how it's going to link end to end within the vertical elements of the business, and then defining where are those specialization elements. And we're going to define that in the new operating model, in the renewal process.
Right.
So I think the unknowns are always going to happen. The what is what's important. How you all are going to implement and execute on that is how we need to devise that commercial model so that it's flexible, it can grow, and achieve those business objectives. Because I think our clients understand that very well, what it is they want to achieve. That's not really going to change because it's the foundations of their business. But how they do it is where they need their help.
And so if I can bring us home on that one, then I think what you guys are hearing, from the team is that there's, it's a more threatening world. Last year we saw clients pulling back their deals or pending their deals because they wanted to see how it landed. They're seeing that a bit more. They're seeing where those risks are. As a result, we're seeing more creativity in the deal making, right? We're seeing the clients are demanding more expertise, more vertical integration, more AI bundling, and they're asking you guys to bring your teams to take the risk and to essentially give them the metrics and the transparency so that they know the value is going to be there. So that's really where the big deals are going to be won this year. and we hope to see you guys there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.